What's going on, gamers? So in this video, since we're going to be highlighting some more stuff, it's good to see what people think about these feats that have been popping up about the Xbox having the Steam tab on the Xbox operating system, right? So Reforge gives his full analysis on what he thinks about this. So I was like, you know what? Let's see how this goes. Let me go ahead and react off of this, and let's see how much he wants to convince people that Sony is going to want to block it, because that's what I think when I think of getting ready to watch Reforge respond to PlayStation games coming to Xbox. I looked at what MBG just said recently. He actually had some good points. We'll talk about that during this video as well too. But when it comes to Reforge, I figured he would fully empower Sony, or fully empower a Sony vision that can make it seem like it's not going to be possible. And I expect that in this video. So let's get into it. Let me know what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go. You know we love doing this over here. Though it is a lot of work, 2 videos a day. Hey, man, I'm telling y'all, watching and doing, totally different. It's not as easy as you think. 7 days a week, too, man. But that's what I'm doing for y'all. You know, that's why you support this channel. And I appreciate all y'all support, though, for sure. All right, y'all. Let's go.
People that don't want to move to PC or need to upgrade their old PC might get this console. It's a smart choice, as long as they're okay with buying a closed box.
Closed box? I think that those days are pretty much over with, though, right?
It's going to be really interesting to see people who have been really criticizing consoles for being, you know, a piece of plastic in a closed box and blah, 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 suddenly sing the praises of a piece of plastic that's a closed box.
But the people that were saying that were mostly PC gamers, right? And now you're seeing the PC integration of it being a hybrid open end console. So it would make sense for them to actually have an interest in it, and for it to be the closest thing to the console experience, what PC experiences, and be able to play almost all games on it, and it's a pick up and play. People would just support that even if they did have an high-end PC, because that's still cool to have. You still can bring that around compared to a big ass desktop that needs, you know, a monitor and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, like I still think this is the most exciting console design since the Switch, just because it does something that's innovative.
Like, suddenly
As a
Steam
gamer.
being on it changes that reality. Like, it won't surprise me at all that a lot
This guy's a character. So see, this is exactly what I expected. I knew it.
of the people that have been sort of very, like, you know, anti-console, all of a sudden, all of a sudden, these pieces of plastic don't matter.
Who said plastic box it out? We know that Alex is one of the main people to say this. See, you can pick up who Reforge subliminally talks about if you're good enough, right? And I have god tier detective skills. I even scare some people like, bro, what are you, not human? You know what I mean? Just to say it. But my thing is that the reason why they're saying that is because they want people to stop being so childish about that, and they've grown past that, because they used to be like that. Eventually, one day, everybody used to be on console. You know what I mean? You don't lie and say that you have it. So these are people that are, you know, disappointed by the Xbox brand, and then they have a problem with Sony, and they don't necessarily have an issue with Nintendo, pretty much, but it's literally goes back to the PlayStation versus Xbox aspect. And because they don't want to do PlayStation, they'll go to PC, and then they'll say that. And it's not that they're wrong, but it's just this is what happens when the debates get like that. So they're just gonna belittle that just because. I just call it like I see it, you know what I mean? And you don't have to take it to heart. You know, Lono. But yeah, he really cares about PlayStation. Not more than the memberships though. Membership. And the reforged coffees in the morning.
That was fast. All of a sudden, exclusives are bad. That was fast.
Nobody never said they were bad. I don't think exclusives are bad. Hell, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be who we are in the gaming industry. Because of Nintendo's method, we have gaming. Once again, exclusives are not bad. No, it's trying to make something a timed exclusive or exclusive on your platform that is not yours way too much when you can't do things yourself and be the leader on your platform.
Well, they'll probably switch again. All of a sudden, in 2027, a closed piece of plastic box is gonna come out and be like, yeah, look how much better this is, cuz.
But didn't all y'all used to play Xbox and you switched to PlayStation? Dude, there's nothing wrong with going to another platform to enjoy good games on it. I think as a gamer, you should value really good games more than anything. I've always have. Even though, like I said, I love Nintendo the most, but I love Nintendo. I'm not a fanboy. You can love something and not be a fanboy. It's just that high level of respect that I have for them, and just the quality that I know they always delivered, and that they showed people, look, in house, and it's not about graphics. Gaming is not about graphics. It's not about having better specs than somebody else. By Nintendo defeating everyone that always had better specs than them, it shows you that it's not about graphics. I like the value and I like the integrity. I like the honor, like staying Japanese. I like everything that they do to show you that this is what gaming is about. It doesn't have to be about all that. Sure, we enjoy all this other stuff and it's drama and entertainment, doing all this stuff. But at the end of the day, deep down in here, I always know the truth. Um, One thing that about the PlayStation side is they need to realize their hypocrisy. It's like, dude, the majority of you over here were on the 360. What are we talking about switching?
Because of Steam. I thought you guys were saying you didn't like closed systems just a while ago. Tell us how Sony would stop their games. Easy. Okay. So Sony is actively right now blocking entire regions from buying their games. And they're not requiring PSN login anymore on Steam. And they are still region blocking games. Do you think they give a frick about blocking games from playing on an Xbox? You think they care?
I get his point. This is why it's good to look and see what somebody else has to say. Nobody else said this but him, from what I've seen. So that is something interesting. That's why I said, you know what? I can't say that that's not 100% true, but I do find it funny that he's going to try to find the best way of convincing you that it's just not going to happen. Well, let me say something to you guys, right? Let's say that if Sony did do this, watch this. Do you know how many games you're going to be getting off of Steam, Epic, and GOG weekly compared to how many games Sony will be dropping? They don't drop that many games. The benefit that you're still going to get from this is ginormous. The biggest benefits is that, not Sony games. But getting Sony games is still going to be a nice supplementary bonus to your library. And you're going to have to pay for it. You know what I mean? It's not going to be on Game Pass, right? And MBG, let me add in what he said. He said the thing is, though, is that Xbox gamers don't buy games. That's the reason why Microsoft came with the Game Pass aspect, because they don't have the players to do that. So by having a rental service happen, you seeing that it's working. So he thinks that Sony shouldn't, and it's not really that big of a deal because they would have to buy the game. You know what I mean? And they don't buy a ton of games. So when we look at all these points of views, it does become interesting. And MBG says he don't think Sony should because it will be bad press. That's a very good statement. Why would they want all that heat for somebody who's not going to buy a ton of games compared to somebody else? They'd have to buy it first and foremost. And there are going to be people that do, obviously. But what he's saying is that the trade-off of the press and the negativity, because they already got that from the login, is not going to be worth it. But he's not going to mention that because he doesn't want to convince you in any sense of the way that it's going to be possible. It's just, somebody's just going to block it easily. You know what I mean? Like, that type of stuff to me is funny.
They're blocking entire regions on Steam from buying their games. You think they care about the piddly amount of Xboxes that will be in the market that can't play their games? They won't care.
And another problem with this is that was not justifying them any favor. It actually hurt their karma with the PC community. It hurt their own game, Helldivers. They had to find a remedy around all that. Then they removed the login. So that's my problem with that, is that it can be attacked easily. And that, once again, it's not justifying their future of just trying to sell games on PC. You don't want the whole community to hate you, but they don't want to support you at all. And you're wasting your time on boards. So they would still get support, but you guys kind of get what I mean. It's just better to ignore that because it's just something, from my point of view, if I was in a position of them, I said, oh, it's just petty stuff. Let them have it. And I'm racking in more sales. Because you're not scared of losing people to PC, as you already said. You're still going to sell consoles. So why not just let things be? I think that would be the most intelligent decision. I don't think they should do that. Because they're just going to cause a ruckus in other places that there shouldn't be one. So
There's like what 30 million Series X's and S's in circulation.
Okay.
How many of these box hybrids you think they're going to sell? Maybe equal to what they've sold right now. Maybe less.
No, I think it would do pretty well. But still, at the end of the day, we're not looking at this to beat PS5. So no, this is more about if I get this as a gamer, I'm going to be able to have all this available to me. Who cares about PlayStation versus Xbox? No, this is what you're offering me for this price. If I would try to build a PC like this, you see, it's getting that Series X deal again, but now with a high-end hybrid PC aspect. It literally depends on how you look at it. He should be excited about this as a gamer. But if you're too much representing Sony, you're not going to be. That's the problem with that mentality. And I told you I love the most, but I'm still excited about this because I'm looking at it as a gamer. Not, oh, are they going to do this to Nintendo? I was like, bro, who cares, man? Come on, man. Get out of here. Let's see what happens.
As they continue to lose customer confidence and consumer confidence in their hardware efforts, and they continue to muddle their marketing talking points and like everything's an Xbox and you don't need an Xbox and you can play. No, I don't think PlayStation would bat an eye. They'd be like, no. We block entire regions from buying our game. You think we care about let's just say 20 million of these sell? You think they care about that?
Microsoft, you know what? No. You're getting both of these.
No. The
Please
Steam
block it.
User base is enormous. And by this time this thing shows up, you're going to have probably, I would guess, over 100 million PlayStation 5s in circulation. By the time this thing shows up in 2027, you'll probably have about 100 million or more PlayStation 5s in circulation, and you have games that you're kicking over to the Steam user base, staggering, Ghost of Yotei will end up on Steam, right? They're not going to be like, oh no, whatever will we do if we block our games from landing on Xbox's new hardware? Like, I don't care, but I don't think they'd be okay with it.
Does care. That explanation has to be that way in Reforge's mind.
Sony blocks God of War from being played on GeForce Now when you're playing from an Xbox. Sony ain't playing. Right there. Yeah, thank you, MM2K.
Yeah, I understand.
Right there. I mean, that proves that they're not okay with it. They would 100% block it. They would. They'd be like, what do you mean? No, it's an Xbox. Not going to happen. Now, I don't know about the Xbox branded Asus handheld coming end of this year. I think they might say the same thing. They might say no. Nope. I think they might say no. That muddles our identity. We don't want our content playable on that device. It's not going to be blocked. No chance. They're already doing it though. What do you mean? They're blocking it from GeForce Now when you do it on Xbox, according to MM2K. They block entire regions from buying their games.
That would be easy to block. I can understand why they would do that. That makes sense. You're not paying for anything.
Games. They listen. They removed the PSN requirement, and you still can't get their games in certain regions, and there's no explanation. They don't even say why. Like 100-something plus regions can't buy PlayStation games on Steam. Spider-Man, for crying out loud. The king of the comic book castle himself, Spidey, the world's most popular superhero, and they have Spider-Man 2 blocked in 70 to 100-something regions.
Like I said, I get what he's saying. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's 100% not going to happen. But it's going to be a little bit more difficult in this situation. When you've already assigned it. See, what I'm telling people is this is another thing they don't get. This is an American issue. Your biggest market is in America for Steam. You would never block that. They do that because they're not getting anything over there. And there's something else going on too, from a political standpoint. But what I'm telling you right now is that this needs to be looked at more than anything from a Western sense first and foremost, and then an American sense. Microsoft, with being American brand and having their biggest market here, and where Sony sells the most at, as far as on Steam and stuff right there. And then they're trying to tap into the Chinese PC market. So, and I've told people before, even if they try those games, all those China games on PC, you'll be able to play. The only thing you'd probably be missing out on is PlayStation games that are coming to PC to Steam. But the library you're going to get outside of that is still way bigger. But we're gonna see if they do that though, because this is gonna cause some American issues. So that's my thing about that.
You think they care about blocking Xbox hardware? That's not going to bother them at all.
We need to see what it's gonna be first.
Oh, they're going to do it. They'd be like, no, we don't care about that. We'll lose those sales. That's fine. If you want our games, you either get yourself a PlayStation or you got to play on PC. You're not going to buy an Xbox and play PlayStation games. I do not think that they would allow that.
I understand his concept. I'm not disagreeing with him in that sense, but if it becomes a high-end hybrid PC experience and you're unifying the experience and you can't tell the difference between the PC app now and the Xbox because they made it one in an operating system sense. Because this is a Microsoft operating system we're talking about, like, meaning you're going to have that on the next gen Xbox. Like we saw Steam in that picture. Guys, that picture was showing the Xbox store, not the Windows store that you see on the PC. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting. They already made an agreement with Steam. There's so many ways to look at this, but we can deduct it down and realize, okay, I get your point over here and I get your point over here, and this is definitely not happening. Like I said, he has a good take on that, which I expected from him.
It wouldn't be okay. They're seemingly keenly aware of it because they're blocking it from GeForce Now already, which means they have a problem with their games showing up on Xbox hardware. Why do you think Lego Horizon isn't on an Xbox?
Who would want it anyways?
That's a Lego game, for crying out loud.
MLB The Show happened, though, and I ended up getting that on Game Pass, and that was published by Sony. Just never know.
That they put on the Switch.
Makes sense, but game was trash.
They put a Horizon Lego game on the Switch, but it ain't on the Xbox. That's not petty. That's just identity protection.
Sony doesn't really have an identity, though, for a while. It's always this hybrid mutating entity. Supposed to be Japanese, you ain't Japanese anymore. Then you become Western. Then you become a Western movie show. Now you're trying to be live service. Like their identity is hybridized. They don't have a solid identity. I'm just gonna tell you, out of everyone, they're the only ones who don't have a solid identity. You know who Nintendo is. They're purely Japanese. You knew who Sega was, right? You see what I'm saying? You know who Microsoft is. Sony? I was changing around, conning and stealing people's stuff, and I don't know.
People keep assuming it would register as an Xbox. You don't think that Microsoft thought of that? Good Lord, it's a Windows handheld without Xbox affiliation in the OS. Sony won't be able to block. You understand that hardware blocking is totally a thing, and they could easily do it. Zubair, Microsoft's not spoofing IDs. Yeah. Come on, man. You think you honestly think Xbox is going to be able to, like, get one over on Sony? Like, they can't block us. They don't know what the hardware ID is. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, I get what he's saying. That's not what we're talking about here. It's more like, what are we going to do to our reputation? What are we going to do to ourselves if this happens?
Zubair said, F me sideways. What planet is this? The user could load a hardware spoofer easy. I mean, you're assuming that this TV-friendly PC hybrid shell that you'd be able to do that, Paul. You're assuming they'd be able to load stuff onto it. Now, maybe the handheld. Yes, they could. I think the handheld's probably more open than the console hybrid would be.
Yeah, because you don't want to block Ace's hardware with the Xbox integration. That's what I'm saying. You got to see how the next console is going to be. But you guys kind of get the point of where he's going with this. So this is why I had to cover this. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what y'all think. All right, y'all. Peace out.